everyone. We're working on a podcast about how tough it is to buy a car right now. From dealers charging thousands over sticker price to used cars selling close, if not over, the price people paid for them brand new. It's a wild time to be car shopping, and we'd love to hear from you. Text or email a video to TalkingCars@iCloud.com and tell us about your experience about buying a new or used car recently. That's TalkingCars@iCloud.com. Thanks, and on with the show. Hi, and welcome to Talking Cars. I'm Jennifer Stockberger.
I'm Mike Monticello.
And I'm Ryan Pizlikowski.
So this week's car of the week, if you will, is the 2022 BMW 2 Series Coupe. And before we get going on this car in particular, Ryan, there's some 2 Series confusion, if that's the right word. Can you walk people through how this 2 Series differs from maybe the Grand Coupe?
Yeah, so the 2 Series, we have a 228i xDrive, all-wheel drive. This is
that we've already tested. So when people say just throw they say 2 Series, you think it's just a 2 Series, and that's a coupe, and this is, or that was a 4-door, and now this is a coupe. No, they're 2 totally different cars, and thank God, because that 228, in my opinion, was It's a all-wheel drive, but it's a front-wheel based all-wheel drive system. It does not feel like a BMW's in its true handling glory that it should be. Right? We'll get into that. This is based on this coming from a past BMW driver.
Yes, yeah. So yes. BMW is something I've studied over the years. So, and they drive me nuts because they change the numbers. They're always changing the body style numbers, and it's just, back in the day, there was a 3 Series, a 5 Series, and a 7 Series, and then it was a 325. It was a 2.5 liter motor, but that's what the 2.5 meant. Yeah. And then it went to like a 328, and it was like, okay, it was a 2.8 liter. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, it's a 330, but it's actually a 2.8 liter engine. And then you fast forward even more years, it's a 330, but it's a turbocharged 4-cylinder. It's chaos. So the numbers don't make sense like they used to.
And like you were saying, Ryan, it's based on a front-wheel drive platform. The platform that's also used for the BMW's X1 and X2 small SUVs, which were based on the platform of the Mini Cooper Countryman.
Again, that's the Grand Coupe.
It's silly compared to this. This is a true BMW. It's the 2 Series is a smaller than a 3 Series. It's a coupe, rear-wheel drive based car, and it is fantastic to drive. I was very happy because I was a little let down when I saw on the list we were getting a 2 Series coupe. I was like, oh well, it's going to be maybe like the one the 228. No, this is everything about it feels better, and don't be confused with the 228.
So
please.
If we want to get Ryan fired up, talk to him about BMWs. It sounds like, huh, Jen?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Sorry about
Take that BMW.
So, Mike, do you agree? You prefer?
Yeah, I thought that the Grand Coupe actually did okay. I thought I agree. It definitely doesn't feel like a real BMW.
Maybe a traditional BMW.
Yeah, traditional BMW. But did you tell me that this coupe, this 2 Series coupe, is not available with a manual manual transmission at all?
Right. So
how dare
there's
you?
A disconnect for you.
I know, that's a bummer.
Right.
So the car we bought so we rented one and we bought one that we're testing, and so it has a 255 horsepower turbo 4-cylinder, basically the same, with an 8-speed automatic, basically the same thing as our same powertrain as our 3 Series, except that our 3 Series that we tested was all-wheel drive. So now we get the real thing, right, Ryan? This is the rear drive version. And, the powertrain, we already thought it was great in the 3 Series, and it's still great, obviously, here. It feels really well matched to the size and weight of this coupe, which did get a little bigger and a little heavier with this redesign. But, it upshifts quickly and smoothly. I thought actually the downshifts were really smooth. Sometimes I thought the downshifts were so good that with this transmission, when you're at like 50% throttle or a little harder, sometimes you do feel those upshifts, which I know Ryan has said in the past. He doesn't mind if you're driving the car hard. He doesn't mind a good stiff upshift. But that's how good the downshifts are, right? Is that you don't feel them, you barely feel them. And then when you talk about, also, I liked putting the car in sport mode because it sounds a little, it has a little sportier note to it. I think BMW is kind of famous these days for piping that in, which offends me on some levels, because I feel like it should always be done through exhaust baffles or something like that, or, pressing an exhaust button. But I like the way it sounded better anyway, so I always put it in that.
So on that note, too, the Sport, it did have the drive modes. It did change, I think, the exhaust note, for lack of a better word, and it changed steering feel. And I think suspensions felt stiffer. But to your point, when you went through the comfort, I think the other one was comfort.
It changes the steering. It doesn't change the suspension. It doesn't have adaptive suspension, but it does change the way the kind of like the firmness of the steering, right, Ryan?
Yeah, the steering does. It gains a little heft. It's it adds to that sportier feel. By today's standards, everything's a little bit numb, if you will. It doesn't have that raw feeling like it used to. But I'll get over it eventually. I would argue that BMW in this transmission is probably the best regular automatic transmission ever. I think it's fantastic. It's really good. It's flawless. It is literally flawless. Yeah.
So quick.
I'm going to push back a little bit on the steering. That was kind of my only letdown with the car. You mentioned vague, Ryan. I think you said vague. I'm saying it now anyway. It's a little vague. That said, even though it doesn't tell you much, what we want out of steering is you're going through the corner and you want to feel some stuff through the steering wheel. You want to, you're talking about road texture and tire grip. That's what you want to be feeling. It doesn't tell you too much. All that said, it turns in naturally, has a pretty natural heft to it, right? And then the suspension works great at getting the car through the turns. And because it's rear wheel drive, if you, maybe coming out of some tight corners, you can get on the throttle pretty hard. And that's when we talk about kind of steering it with the throttle, maybe get a little bit of oversteer before the, stability control cuts in if you still have it on. And that's the kind of rear drive feel that we're talking about and that we love. So that's really cool. I will say that we talked about the rented car. That one had the, an optional sport suspension. And that one I thought rode a lot firmer, considerably firmer than this car. And this car still rides firm. We talk about German car tautness. That's a thing, right? For years back in 80s and 90s, feels like a German car. Everything we wanted to feel like a German car because they feel taut without being harsh. The borrowed one was pretty darn stiff. This one is still quite firm, but I thought livable. And also this one ours has 18s. The borrowed one had 19s. I know Ryan gets defensive about the tires. Don't blame it on the tires. But, that does make a difference. And so I do think ours worked better from that perspective. Still gives you the good handling, but with a little more comfortable ride, I thought. You guys agree?
And I think when it's stiffer, when it's just suspended more stiffly, you do get more noise, too, in the cabin. It just conveys up through, which I do think this had over the Grand Coupe 228 XI.
Why would you try and get Ryan fired up again? What's wrong with you?
But and again, I agree with everything you guys are saying. My issues with the car have nothing to do with the powertrain handling ride. They have to do with it being a coupe.
The very nature of what it is.
The very nature of it.
What are you, an anti-coupeite?
Kind of. Or I've become
is that a thing?
One. I think I've become one.
That could be a thing, right?
Yeah. Are you talking to the cat? Anyway,
there's nobody in there.
There's no one in there.
Seatbelt fit, access, rear seat room. Like, to me, it's.
Did you say seatbelt fit? What do you mean by that?
Because it has no adjustable anchor. The seatbelt literally runs across my shoulder.
Oh, you can't adjust it on the B pillar.
No, because it's a coupe. So it anchors goofy for me. Again, I'm probably sitting far closer than you guys are. But all of that, personally, I would take the 4-door practicality, access, etc., of the Grand Coupe XI 228 that we already tested,
or the 3 Series, if
3 Series,
right, or a 3 Series.
Now,
there you go.
You're talking about the back seat though, Jen. How about how slowly the front seats move forwards? I mean, it's cool that they do it automatically, but plus it's really hard to find this lever on the back of the upper part of the seat back to pull on it. Right, first, like you're trying to find the thing, you pull on it. And then, you put the seat back forwards, and then now it's so slowly. This is about how fast it moves as I'm going across the seat. This is how fast the seat moves to go
slow.
upwards so that you can get in the back. It's ridiculous.
It's telling you shouldn't be putting anybody back there. That's that's for your duffel bag, not
It
for
is.
any people.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
It's
And
tiny.
I always say lots of standard safety features, forward collision warning, automatic emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist, blind spot, which we don't always see as part of the package, lane departure warning, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, so of course we'll have full test results coming, but it sounds like maybe a driver's car for sure.
Absolutely.
Albeit
just
no
just
manual.
missing that one piece.
No manual.
Yeah.
I know.
Just missing that one.
It's a bummer because I remember we tested a 1 Series when the 1 Series first came out, and it was a manual. And then we got another 2 Series Coupe, years after that, and they were both manuals, and they were so fun. They reminded me of my old 3 Series I had growing up, and I just wish they would put a manual on some of these things.
He's just like, I just loved it. I just loved it. So stay tuned for full results.
It's okay.
So moving to your question of the week. This is from Stephen from Auckland, New Zealand. Good day, Stephen. I think they say that in New Zealand.
That's Australia.
No, but it's New Zealand too, I think.
Australia's
Good day,
Mike.
They're neighbors.
Put the prawn on the Barbie.
Oh, gosh.
They say prawn. They don't say shrimp there in
They
Australia.
do put a prawn on the Barbie?
Yeah.
So Stephen asks, when I was learning to drive, we were taught to occasionally look around while driving long distances. The purpose was to avoid highway hypnosis, he says, zoning out from the monotony of the drive and losing situational awareness. Do driver monitoring functions like Ford's BlueCruise or GM Super Cruise allow for this? Or has the thinking changed since I first learned? So I will start by saying my dad called it scanning. You should be constantly scanning ahead, your mirrors, etc. And I don't think any of these, what we call direct driver monitoring systems, mainly cameras really looking at you, would prevent you from doing it because they require a little bit of time before they start saying, hey, you're not paying attention. I think when you're doing, and when you're doing that situational awareness and scanning, it's so quick and constant that you're not defying the rules of these direct driver monitoring systems. I don't know if you guys think that's probably true.
I agree. Yeah.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Nope, sorry. I agree with you. I spent time in our Escalade with the Super Cruise, and I mean, you can look to the side, you can check your mirrors, and you can take a sip of your water bottle quickly, and it won't disrupt it, which is good. I think that's probably a good threshold of alertness for the system to have. But definitely, like to your point, you should be still scanning and doing that stuff. You don't want to just be sitting there like, in a trance looking down the road because you're afraid of the system watching you. The system's designed to kind of understand that you are going to be looking around. But however, if you are turned like this for a couple of minutes, it's going to, less than a couple of minutes, it'll tell you that before then, but it's going to alert you then,
I actually find when those systems tell me, even the Subaru one, that's not, an automated driving situation or anything. When those systems tell me I'm not paying attention, I'm usually not paying attention or have, I mean? It seems appropriate, but Mike, I don't know if you find that.
Well, I was just going to say, first of all, I think it's a great question, right? Because, these are new, these Super Cruise, BlueCruise, these things that are watching you and making sure you're paying attention. Of course, we think these systems are the right way to go. These direct driver monitoring systems are the way to go instead of just occasionally, almost randomly saying, making you put a hand on the wheel to give it some wheel torque to prove that you're still paying attention. These things force that you, but it is a great question. Like, could they lull you into complacency? You could almost see someone like, their eyes are open, but maybe they're glazing over and just thinking about whatever, right? And so, and I also think it's funny, Jen, that you mentioned your dad, right? And so, first of all, we're going to get emotional because your dad recently passed away, and I don't want to make you cry, but he was a great guy, and we miss him. But my dad said basically the same thing. He taught me how to drive. And one of the things he told us was, I want you checking your mirrors, either the rear view mirror or the side mirrors, about every 10 seconds. And that's something that I still do to this day, because you never know what's coming up behind you. You don't know if it's someone, gaining on you really quickly, maybe driving erratically, maybe a big truck is coming up and you need to be aware of that. Or most important of all, an emergency vehicle of some kind is maybe coming. So you should always, I say to people, well, what else do you have to do? You're driving. You should
Right.
be
Yes,
paying attention.
exactly.
Your number one object when you're driving is to be paying attention. So yeah, check your mirrors every 10, 15 seconds. It's great to look around at the scenery, and these systems do allow enough time for you to look around at the scenery, see what's going on, check your mirrors on occasion, adjust the radio station, adjust the climate control. They do allow enough time for that. So I don't think that's going to be an issue.
Right.
Is my guess.
And still a good tool. So here's a question for you. You're on a long trip. You're still scanning to your dad and my dad's point. What's your best tool to avoid highway hypnosis, as Steven says? What do you do? What else do you do? Open a window,
Who are you
drink a lot
asking?
of coffee. Yeah, I'm asking Ryan first.
Oh, you're asking me. So if I'm going on a long trip, I have a bad habit of purchasing one of the small 8-ounce Red Bull cans and sipping on that.
Yep.
It's got enough energy in it to probably
That's okay.
kill a horse, but
But it works.
And I can just kind of, music. I like to listen to music. If there's a passenger, it's always nice to talk. You stay alert. And like you said, scanning the mirrors, make sure Monticello's not coming up on me at 120 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's why you're
behind,
looking.
But
Monty, what do you do?
Kind of the same thing. Same thing, 8.4 ounce can of Red Bull. If I'm feeling a little sleepy, I do, I love to get a can of sugar-free Red Bull and a bag of peanut M&Ms. And I mean, don't take this the wrong way. I think I've said this on the show before, but that's actually something that I think BlueCruise and Super Cruise do work well for, is that because they can handle the steering for you and they're actually designed to be hands off, is that I can turn those systems on, or even the other systems as well, turn the steering assist on while I'm like opening bag of M&Ms, and then I put my hands back on. Honestly, right. I do that sometimes. It does very much help with that. So I do the same thing where I'm checking the mirrors pretty constantly, just kind of be aware of what's going on around me. I always move back over to the right lane as soon as I pass a car. No hanging out in the left lane.
Wait,
there's always
you do
things
what?
to do.
You what do you
heard
do?
me, buddy. You heard me.
That is my
Not
biggest
believing it
pet peeve. Oh my goodness. I
Like
hate
not
that.
moving back over.
When they sit in the left lane. Sorry.
And then
I'm
the
fired
other
up
thing,
today.
so I graze on snacks to kind of keep me alert, and then honestly music, not up too loud, but I love listening to music while I'm driving, and it keeps it kind of. I know Jen is probably dancing in the car. I'm more singing in
There's
the car.
There's a lot of singing and dancing. Much to my poor children and any occupant of my car, I sing loud and I know all the words. And as my husband says, honey, you know all the lyrics, but you can't sing. And I just keep going. So sorry for them.
No comment.
Sorry
No
for
comment.
them. So Stephen, great question. Great question. Everybody keep scanning. That will do it for this episode. Keep your questions, video clips coming, TalkingCars@iCloud.com. Love them. And we thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.